And, and hey, everybody, this is Tom Signorello, usually in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Today, I got caught out of position. I'm in St. Augustine, right outside Palencia. Very nice community here. And we've got an ongoing treat with you. Big Al Schreiter, Tom and I have been wonderful friends, and he's agreed to come on with more bits and training for network marketing professionals and helping people crack the code of network marketing by speaking the silent language of reaching into people and getting them to make decisions. So without further ado, my great friend, Tom Big Al Schreiter. Tom, take it away.
Okay, well, let's just do some magic words in the next 20 minutes that people can use right away. And you say, well, why magic words? Well, because they work like magic, and we don't have to be exceptionally skilled. We don't have to study them for years. Just say these words and good things happen. So here is an example of better words. Same opportunity, same situation, but just changing the word slightly, we get a different result. So I tell a story. I'm on a date. And I say to the lady, when I look in your eyes, time stands still. Or I could have said these words, your face would stop a clock. Now, we have described the exact same situation. But because the words change, there's going to be a different result. One, I might get a flat slap in the face. And the second one, well, I don't know. Maybe a punch in the nose. I don't know. But it's going to be bad if we say the wrong words. And as network marketers, we tend to say the wrong words that people will say, you're a salesman. I need to be skeptical. Uh, what can I do to delay? Think of some excuses to run away. It is pretty ugly. So what are some examples of magic words that just make a difference right away? If a person is in front of you and they're about to give you a sales presentation, how do we feel? Stressed. Start getting my excuses, look for reasons why not instead of reasons why. And we can disarm all of this with 5 words. All we have to do is say, here is the short story. As soon as we say, here is the short story, everything changes in the prospect. I think, wait. What do you mean? Just a short story? Quick, a few things? What's going on? How is this so useful? And people say, well, if it's a short story, it's going to be over with right away. So let's just do an example for us here. I'm talking to Tom here. I say that, Tom, I got this great business opportunity. Oh, and Tom's going to, well, I don't, and I say, well, here's the short story. And Tom thinks, short story, I'll go for that because it'll be easier to listen to a short story than try to talk him out of it. So the first thing we should always write down is here's the short story. That's always going to be like our get out of jail free card. It's going to take all the pressure away from people. You say, well, that was a pretty easy one. Did we learn some magic words last time? And I think we did. So if you're writing them down, let's write down this one. Remember the words, would you be interested in? Brings an automatic no. What brings an automatic yes? Do we remember that from last time? What brings an automatic yes? I said, well, I don't know. And you say, well, if I don't know, why should I be out here talking to people? I'm going to get killed. So let's try this. Would it be okay if? Now, the would it be okay if brings about a natural response. The default thing is, well, it seemed kind of nice the way you asked me. So if you say, would it be okay if, I'm going to say, yeah, as long as it's, not too hard. They say, okay, so would it be okay if, how would I use this? Would it be okay if I told you how I'm doing? Would it be okay if I told you what I just did? Would it be okay if I shared my secret plan to get wealthy with you? Would it be okay if we could meet over a cup of coffee and I could tell you what I just found out? Would it be okay if I told you what happened to my mom? You say, wow, those are pretty good things. We're all going to start nodding yes, 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 yes as soon as we hear it. You say, well, that was pretty easy. What else could I use for magic words? You say, well, where am I going to need them? Well, how about a close? You say, well, I know that closing happens earlier because we talked about that, but after they say yes, and I show them all the brochures and stuff, hmm, what am I going to do to kind of wrap it up? Now, the way the human mind is set up is there's kind of an emotional section and kind of a logical section, fact section. So let's think about this for a moment. The human mind does not make decisions on facts. You say, really? All right, so let's do some facts. If you want to lose weight, all you have to do is exercise and eat funny foods. That's the fact. How many people follow that one? All right. To be in great shape, you should get up and exercise and run a couple miles every morning at 4 a.m. Factual, but not useful. So what's going on? Emotion. If there is an emotion, people will take action to make a decision. So there's a part of our brain that processes emotion. And they found this brain part by accident. What happened was in 1848, there's a guy named Phineas Gage. And all his job was a work in a railroad. It was just to put gunpowder down a tube, and then they're going to blow it up for rocks and stuff to build a railroad. Well, something happened and it kind of exploded too early, and the tube went up and went through his head. So he had this tube that went through his head, which is not a good thing. And for some reason, he survived. And then they noticed some strange things. They noticed that this man could not make a decision. And he couldn't make a decision to eat the corn first or peas first on his plate. He couldn't make a decision which utensil to pick up. He couldn't make a decision on anything. And so they made a theory. He says, well, maybe that part of the brain that went out with the tube might have been his decision-making part of the brain. Well, what it was is a certain part where the emotion happens. So, okay, so what does that all mean? It means that he didn't have any emotion, so he couldn't make a decision. Decisions come from emotion. So what we want to do is not try to logic people into, if you join our program at this level, you'll get so much more. Yeah, can't do that. We have to get emotion. Emotion get people to do amazing things. So what kind of clothes could we use that would not be logical, but would really bring up some negative emotions, a problem in their life that they would just want to overtake? And it's 4 words. Now, what these 4 words do is increase the amount of pain somebody feels about their problem to such an emotional level that they do something about it, because you need emotion to trigger action. So the 4 words are you okay with? So how do you come up with this? Well, are you okay with waking up early on Monday mornings for the rest of your life? Are you okay working on Friday afternoons when you see your boss leave to go to the golf course? Are you okay with your worthless brother-in-law making twice the salary you are? Are you okay with, and you say, wow, all I have to do is say, are you okay with the problem? And people have this emotional feeling, no, I'm not okay with that. I want to do something. So it's the emotion, it's the pain. Here's the difference. Let's talk about dentistry. You get a postcard in the mail saying, hey, it's time for your checkup. Okay. So what do? Oh, wow, panic, call right away, rush down there, get an amp. No, we don't. We look at that and say, I don't think so. Uh, my teeth feel fine. I'll wait till next year. No pain, no emotion. But how about a little bit of pain? Let's say you wake up with a toothache. As a matter of fact, it's so bad, your head is throbbing, your face is swollen out to here. You can only see out of one eye. Painkiller's not touching this. You're going crazy. So you pick up the phone, call the dentist. Say, hey man, hey, I got toothache. He says, yeah, I can take you. have an opening in 2 weeks. I'll see you then. He said, no, 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 2 weeks. Uh, I need it now. I said, well, yeah, I can't. He said, well, I'm going to come in. I'm motivated. I'm going to sit in the front office. If somebody cancels, I'll take their appointment. If nobody cancels during lunch when you're eating your sandwich, look inside my mouth. You say, wow, that's motivation. And so all you have to ask is, are you okay with keeping that pain for the next 2 weeks? The dentist doesn't have to do a sales job on the price or the schedule or anything. It's all done for him. So when you say, are you okay with keeping this problem? People say, well, it's time for me to make a decision, and I'm going to make it on emotion because I have a lot of things going on here. Now, can you make a decision based upon logic? Well, yeah, but it's just not as effective. So here's another close we could use at the end. And it's 9 words. The magic words are, so what is going to be easier for you? Now, when you say what is going to be easier for you, 9 words. And what is the prospect thinking? Well, I get to choose what's easier. Oh, I get to make a choice. Nobody's going to push me on this. I'm in charge of my decisions. A lot of good things are happening. So he says, so what's going to be easier for you? And then we give him 2 choices. Choice number 1 is to keep your problem. And choice number 2 is my wonderful solution. Notice that there's no, I need to think it over. Just 2 choices. The fewer the choices, the better. You say, wait a minute. So the problem, the choice is keep the problem or the wonderful solution. Well, I want to think it over. No, no, thinking it over is keeping your problem. So there's only 2 choices. So how would this sound in real life? So you could say to a real estate agent, if you're selling cards, you say, so what's going to be easier for you to keep paying big money to advertise, to try to get, new buyers and new sellers and spend that money and hope it works out? Or to start with this card program now to have new prospects showing up weekly on demand. So what's going to be easier for you to make cold calls and go scouring the neighborhood trying to drum up some business, or to start getting instant referrals from happy people so you never have to feel like a salesman again? You say, well, that was pretty easy. So the question is, what are the 2 choices? The choices, choice number 2 was what? Our wonderful opportunity. What's choice number 1? Keep your miserable life the way it is. Now, with those 2 choices, people can make a pretty clear decision. The problem with decisions, though, is there's something called a menu that's too big. I think it's the Cheesecake Factory that has a 64-page menu. The longer the menu, the longer it's going to take somebody to make up their mind. And the problem is, if they make up their mind, they always have second thoughts. Well, I might have missed something that's better. Maybe I should have got something else. If you're going to close people, give them the minimum amount of choices allowed by law, and that's 2. So the choice is always my wonderful offer, and choice number 2 is keep your miserable life. Based upon that, should we say it's going to be pretty easy to close, isn't it? And we just do this by saying, so what's going to be easier for you? You say, well, what's another way of doing it? He says, well, we could use these words. This is especially good for accountants and engineers. You just say, does it make sense? So, well, does it make sense to get new leads from referrals instead of paying all that money? So in this case, the close is still an option. Does it make sense? Which makes people go, okay, that seems fair, to do what I offer instead of keeping my miserable life. So the words are, does it make sense? And then you put in instead of. So let's do this. Does it make sense to start a part-time business for extra income instead of gambling 100% of our income on just one job and one dysfunctional boss? Does it make sense to have a part-time business in case our main job lays us off or dissolves and leaves us with nothing. Does it make sense to have a part-time extra business as security because we don't want to risk everything on just one job? You say, well, I could do that pretty easily. Does it make sense? You say, well, what other type of closes could I use? Well, you could start off by saying, what do I want them to do? And the answer is, I want them to step forward and say, I want to do something. So let's make a close about freedom. You say, so does it make sense to start a part-time business so we can eventually have our own life, have enough money to retire early, instead of just paying bills and hoping that something magical happens at 65? You say, well, closing doesn't seem that hard. So maybe closing isn't my problem. Maybe my problem is finding people. Okay. So we have a little bit of time here. So we got to close people on becoming a prospect. So what's the easiest way of doing that? Um, if you are brand new, let's say you're in St. Augustine and you say, well, I'm going to go to Ocala tomorrow and I don't know anybody in Ocala. So you say, Big Al, I want you to go to Ocala and sponsor some people. I'm thinking, whoa, I don't know anybody in Ocala. So what am I going to do? Well, if I go to Ocala, the first thing I'm going to do is go across the street and talk to the sales clerk, well, retail clerk at one of the stores. You say, why do you talk to them? Oh, because I'm a coward. All right. I don't want rejection. But if I talk to a retail sales clerk, they're not going to be rude to me or else they might lose their job. So at least I have that going for me. And say, all right, so what are some magic words I can say? So to the retail sales clerk that just dropped me into town, I'm going to say, I am just curious. Now, if we say, I am just curious, what happens? For some reason, people just love us. The sales fear goes away. And I've tried this, even for me, because I'm a, like say, full-time coward. I could go to a stranger. I'm just curious. Could you tell me the best way to go someplace? And it's always nice. So we're going to start off with the words, I am just curious. Could you do me a favor? Now, as soon as I say, could you do me a favor? Most of them are thinking, ooh, uh, I'm not sure. I mean, if he's asking for money, no. If asking me to help move, no. So, what's the favor? So there's some reservations, but I'm just curious. Could you do me a favor? And I'm not going to ask him for money or anything. I say I am looking for, and I'm going to tell him the exact type of person I'm looking for. And I'm thinking, oh, what kind of person am I looking for here? Who'd be a good prospect for me? Well, how about this? I say to the clerk, I'm just curious. Could you do me a favor? I'm looking for people to have a full-time job and a part-time job and would like to get rid of one of those jobs. Do you know anybody like that? They say, well, yeah. My sister has a full-time job and a part-time job. I said, oh, great, give me your phone number. Oh, why do you want her phone number? Well, so I could call her. Oh, why do you want to call her? So, help her get rid of one of those jobs. And now she has a choice. Oh, okay, here's the phone number. Hi, sister. I was talking to your sister. She said you had a full-time job and a part-time job and like to get rid of one of them. Is that true? Oh, yeah. Magic words. Then we should talk. Now, what do I know about people who have a full-time job and a part-time job? Well, I know that they don't want two jobs. They want more time in their life. They're ambitious. They're self-starters. These sound like great people. So if I'm asking for people with a full-time job and a part-time job, I'm asking for the exact prospect that I'm looking for. So here's the formula. I am just curious. Could you do me a favor? I'm looking for, in my case, people have a full-time job, a part-time job, and would like to get rid of one of those jobs. Do you know anybody like that? So how many times do I have to ask that at least get pointed in the right direction of somebody? Not too many. And I won't have to take any rejection along the way. So that's how magic words work. We can do our business and not feel uncomfortable and find some of the best people right away. And you say, but I don't want to look for somebody with a full-time job and part-time job. Well, what are you looking for? And ask that. So with that, our 20 minutes are up, Tom, and people's attention span is up. So now it's up to them.
No, we can't end on that because, I didn't get a chance to tell people. I'm not going to tell them what company I'm with, but I've been in network marketing for 16 years, going on forever. And you and I have built a relationship over the last couple of years, and now we're educating and taking people to a higher level, learning the skills that I didn't realize I needed. And when I did, over the last 9 months, I became the number one income, not income earner, number one recruiter within my company. And we know that recruiting leads to bigger checks with more zeros and more commas, right? But the bigger thing is the education that I gained from you, Big Al, and from bigalbooks.com, and I listen to you on YouTube, and I listen to you on my Audible. And how can people get more information? I know you always say it's a tough website, bigalbooks.com.
Yeah. Yeah, just go to bigalbooks.com, and somewhere there it's going to say free newsletter. And then twice a week we send out tips of cool things to say. And you say, well, what's an example of cool things to say that pay off? I just got off the network marketing cruise, and while I was there, there's a couple there that came to me and says, you told us to stop doing the presentation and showing the slides and start using some magic words. So I said, so we use these magic words, and these people wanted to enroll in like 15 seconds. And they said, now, not everybody's going to do that. I mean, but why not give it a chance? So if those that are going to enroll right away don't have to listen to a whole bunch of garbage. And a lot of people like accountants and engineers want to know all the facts. We use our common sense. But here's the words they said. They said, well, we had this prospect and we said to him, there's two types of people in the world, which is, of course, freezes their brain. The human mind says, well, what are the two types? Which one am I? The curiosity survival program takes over. They have no defense. They have to listen. So there's two types of people in the world. Those that see opportunity and grab it and go for it, and those that don't and just fall behind.
Get eaten by the tigers.
Yeah. And I said, that's all we said. And the person says, yeah, I'm the type that looks for opportunity. What are we going to do? And they said, I couldn't believe it. But what we're selling is not our product, not our compensation plan for levels, or not the company founder background. We're not selling the patents or anything. What we're selling is for the opportunity is, do you want freedom or not? Do you want the freedom of having enough money so you can have a 4-day week? So you have 3-day weekends forever. Just that little bit can just change somebody's lives. 3-day weekends forever. And you say, oh, okay, I've been selling the wrong thing. I've been selling that the company got this really cool award. No, what you want to sell is they never have to work Mondays again. Or they have enough money the extra money will pay off all their bad decisions on credit cards for the last 5 years. That's what we sell, the freedom of having more opportunity.
I like what you had to say one time. I heard you say, I'd like a 6-month vacation twice a year.
Yeah. Then I realized a lot of people are bad at math. They couldn't figure that one out. So
One more thing before we go. You just mentioned the networking cruise. I just saw something on Facebook and I replied, I'm in. And I don't even know when the dates are or whatever, but I promise I'll be on that. Tell people about that real quick.
once a year, we go on a cruise. We tell networkers from around the world, if you'd like to join us, you'll be a week with positive people instead of sitting at a table where somebody's complaining about their cat or something. All positive people. So we've been doing it every year for 30 some years. And this year we went to all around Italy, Spain, and France. Next one is going to be in the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean. So I'll be leaving out of Miami. So if you're in the US, it's going to be a lot cheaper. And it's going to be late spring of next year, since we just finished this one. But it's a good place to go. We do a couple of workshops while we're there on, but the biggest thing is during those long dinners, you're exchanging ideas with other networkers. And one good idea can pay for the price of a cruise. Can I pass on one idea I got from the cruise?
Do it.
All right. This is one I got from almost 20 years ago. I'm on the network marketing cruise. And this one idea paid for all the cruises I'll ever take for the rest of my life. Just one idea. So during one of our sessions, this guy, this network came up and he said, I'm full of myself. You know, I'm the big deal. Yeah, I'm big time consultant. And he tells a story. And he tells a story about, you know, how to get appointments. And I'm thinking, how to get appointments? That's hard. As you know, I wrote a book, Keith and I wrote a book on how to get appointment. It was the hardest of the 50 books. It was the hardest one to write. And we realized after we started, no wonder nobody ever wrote one on how to get appointments because it's really hard to do, but we did. But all the ideas I have for appointments, this is the one that just really rocked. So this guy stands up in front of the cruise and he says, I was hired as a big time consultant for this fundraiser. So they got 12 execs into the room and they have this big dinner coming up on Saturday night. They didn't sell enough tickets. So I said to the 12 execs, you guys are CEOs, tell your employees to buy some tickets, tell your customers to buy some tickets, tell your salesmen and vendors to get some, your relatives to some, and we'll sell this thing out. He looked at those 12 CEOs, you know, three-piece suit, red tie, and he said, they looked like they saw a ghost. He says, well, what's wrong with you guys? What do you mean? He said, well, we don't know what to say. He says, what do you mean you don't want to say? You guys, well, you know, they might say no. He says, come on, you guys don't have feelings. You fire people. You eat your young. So what's the deal? Well, we don't want to take advantage of our friendships or feel like we're pressuring people, whatever. And he says, this is what you say to them. So if you have a pencil, write this one down. It says, I am perfectly comfortable with your decision. So comfortable is a pretty good word. You can say okay with in case comfortable is too big. I'm perfectly comfortable with your decision. So he's letting them know they're going to be a decision, right? So you just go to all your friends and all your employees or whatever, and you'll never be embarrassed if you do this. I'm perfectly comfortable with your decision if you want to support the fundraising dinner on Saturday night for this organization or not. That's up to you. I don't even know your schedule. That was nice. Kind of lets him off the hook. And then he says, but I was uncomfortable not calling you and letting you know about this and having you think that I wasn't your friend. And I got thinking, what a great way for an appointment. So I could talk to my uncle who I know is going to make fun of me, whatever, but I have to have an excuse. I just want to call him and say, hey, you know, I got this deal. So I say, hey, uncle, I'm perfectly comfortable with your decision. You want to even take a look at my business or not? You know, I don't even know what you're doing right now. I don't even know what's going on. But I was uncomfortable not calling you and letting you know about it and having you find out from one of the other relatives 6 months later and having you think that I didn't like you. I wanted to keep it a secret. Wow, I could get appointments with anybody, anywhere, and never feel bad. And for a shy person like me, it was great. That one appointment technique helped me overcome all my fears of calling people for an appointment, and it's magic. So that's the difference.
Wonderful. Well, I think we're out of time. We've used up a half an hour. I'm going to put this out to my social media and YouTube, and I'll put links to go to the cruise. Hopefully we can get some people to come and, you know, hopefully they'll just say, well, you know what? I hope they'll do me a favor, you know, and there's no pressure whether they come or not, but we'd love to see them there. So Tom, thanks for your time today. And we'll see you again on another one
Yeah,
of these sometime soon.
see you in a
And
couple of weeks.
yeah, sounds good. So if you would, please hit the subscribe button and keep updated with all these kinds of cool trainings that we got from Tom and lots of other network marketing gurus. Man walks on water when it's frozen. All right. Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.